Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jade and this is How to App on iOS. Today, I'm really excited because we have a trailblazer of the metal scene in Lori Bravo. You ready? Grab onto your ankles, bitches. Welcome to the show, everybody. If your head hasn't exploded yet, I don't know what to tell you. On the show today, we have somebody who, I'll tell you briefly. I was a massive fan of when I was younger. I came across this album that you just heard, Nuclear Death, and A Bride of Insect was the name of the album. I got it on vinyl. And why was it important to me as a young metalhead? It was important because this was the first female vocalist I heard growling and was just like, oh my fucking God, finally. Because back here, around these times, what was it? I think that year that album came out was 1990. Yeah, pretty sure that album came out. So it was, it was unfathomable to have a female vocalist in that kind of scene, in the extreme black grind death metal scene, whatever you want to call it. And so it was I think last year or late last year, I came across Lori Bravo, the singer of this band, somebody who I had all her albums and was a big fan of through Pete Johns' group Create Record Release. So it's my pleasure today to have on the show an idol for me, and I'd like to welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, welcome to the show, Lori Bravo. How are you today? Whoa, shit.
There we go. That's okay.
You sure can.
Can you hear me? All right, we're good. All right, rock on.
Hey,
cool. Hey,
welcome along.
So, yeah, hey, what's going on, man? And as I say again, holla y'all from New Orleans, man.
I'm so glad you have taken the time to come out on this show. As I said, I'm a massive fan, and I'm so glad that now I'm your friend, so that's really awesome too.
Yes, we're friends. We're way more, because I always call them fiends and comrades. I hate the word fans, so it's always fiends and comrades. These be my people. That way I don't have to say
So yeah, how
fan.
we met was, and I was really surprised by this. So here am I, idolizing your music when I was young and going, I'm a big fan. Who's this female vocalist who's just absolutely brutal, and all of a sudden we meet each other through Pete John's Create Record Release.
I think that's totally cool though, because it's how I meet a lot of people I end up being close to. That it's not through a scene, especially because I'm not in a scene right now, so to speak. So and the Corona and all that. So yeah, it makes perfect sense, because a lot of people I've met over the last year even were people such as yourself that were longtime listeners, and I was like, oh, and they were like, I used to write you, and I'd remember, oh yeah, you wrote me, I remember that. And I think, and we were meeting dance musical though, like you're saying, but some other circumstance, not just, yeah. But it's just, I mean, it's also helped that I've been very active online in the last several years, which is good, because that way, people can find me really easily. I'm not hiding out, it's, you want to talk to me, it's easy to do so.
Yeah, damn straight.
Typically.
You are incredibly accessible online, and
yes,
that's something which not all artists are. So it's a rare find, and I love your live streams. I try to catch as many of them where you sit there and just stream.
Get drunk and talk. Yeah, well, it's because I was alone in the house for 2 weeks with no furniture, and I didn't have anything to. I mean, it was so weird. I mean, I wasn't afraid or anything, but it was just weird. Like, my mom is staying at my brother's in Metairie, and I'm over here, and I'm just, me and the kitties. That's it. Me, 5 cats, nothing. At one point, I was making grilled cheese on the gas burner because we didn't even have any pots or pans yet, which is fine. I'm not complaining. It was fun, but it was weird. And then I only had the WOZ. I had WWOZ, which is the greatest radio station on earth, one of them anyway. And that was what kept me. That's what kept me alive, was I had some sort of music to listen to that with the DJs talking. Because here the DJs are very accessible and they're awesome. They're all great people and they're all musicians themselves. So they can keep, they'll keep you going. So you don't feel so alone. So yeah, that's the live streams were almost just so. I didn't care if anybody felt. Maybe people will be watching, maybe they won't. Because when you and I talked, I think it was just me and you. I don't think anyone was even watching that one time. So we were just don't care. I was like, well, let's hang out, and we just had chats because you're your time on my time, and it was like perfect timing. So
yeah, definitely,
it was all good in the hood.
So let's do this. I normally don't say hello to folks in the chat, but tell a bit.
Yeah,
later
hey,
on, but let's do it. So, hey, Russ, we got
Joshua
Ivan
Dead.
Idea here. Who else? Panda Get is here. Cy, effing good to see you.
Kevin Hart.
Yeah, Kev Hart.
tapes.
So he's the guitarist, musician in my band, our band.
Oh, that's totally cool that you're passing the tapes around. Well, fuck yeah, thank you for doing that. Because if you didn't do that, I wouldn't be sitting here right now saying thank you for doing that, man.
Synth Widow's here as well. Tom Rochelle. And it looks like I did a great example.
Hey,
hello.
Jesse. So my drummer who plays on I Married the Devil and plays on When the Sun Dies, she's a master jazz musician that works in New York City, and she just said hello right now, Jesse Nelson. So, hey, love you, miss you.
Hi, Jesse. Hey, Bubba. Thanks, everybody, for being here. If I've missed you, we'll catch up, but we'll have a catch up halfway through.
Woo-hoo.
So I'm going to ask you the question I ask everybody
Here
to
we
kick
go.
off the show. Lori Bravo, what does music mean to you?
Music is the reason I'm alive, and I mean this in every way. Music is my lover, my best friend, my husband. I've sacrificed everything for music. In fact, I'll even keep in a bad relationship, hint, hint, because the music is so good that I don't care what's going on in my personal life. I'd rather just make sure the music stays good. And when the music doesn't stay good, then I leave. That's kind of how it works. I mean, now I've been single for like over 22 years or something now, but not by choice, just saying. But yeah, that's music to me is the reason I'm alive and the reason I breathe. And I've never wanted anything else. I've never wanted a family. I've never wanted to get married. I've never wanted kids. I don't want anything but cats and music. So that's, yeah, music is just, I mean, it's like, it's what I do. And being a singer is what I am. And so, and then a musician, of course, or whatever, artist, visual artist. But yeah, for me, it's just, I can't live without it at all. And everything else is chaos, there's always that. Like that's the thing that's never let me down. That's, I think, why people can let me down. I can even let myself down, but music doesn't let me down. And that's something that I think I really strive for, is to have, now I'm finding more people that don't let me down, but I'm just saying back in the day or whatever, it's like that was the reason, for the season. It's just, at least I have my music, or at least I can sing. That was the other thing. I was like, when I wasn't as good of a guitar player yet, I was learning, and I thought, well, I can sing though. So, at least I can do that. Even if I can't play the solo like that guy can do it, I can still sing. So there's that. Because singing is something that's natural. That's like something that luckily I don't have to work at all. It's just a gift, and I'm so lucky because everything else has come to, you have to practice. And I hate practicing.
So, do you recall the music that was being played in your household growing up?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the thing that's really cool is my father wanted to be a jazz musician, and he was, to a point. He played trumpet, and he got first chair, which is a big deal. And he was in the Chicago scene. He didn't know Miles Davis, who of course everyone probably knows is my favorite, but he knew that scene. And the thing is my dad always told me, if you don't have anything to say, don't play an instrument. And I thought that was weird. And I hadn't even started playing guitar yet. But he's like, if you don't have anything to say, and he said he really felt like he didn't have much to say. He said he could play, but he didn't feel like he was connecting to what you would say, because the people he's around were obviously geniuses. And so, you're hanging around with these people and you're thinking, okay. So he always said, just make sure if you play something, you mean it and you have something to say. And he always figured I'm probably the one that needs to have something to say, because he ended up going into the Army, and luckily meeting my mom and blah, 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 and having a family and whatever. But my mom actually told him tried to get him to play guitar, and got him a guitar. And I'm glad he didn't. He played it for like a week and didn't want to play it. It sat and got clathered dust. And then I picked it up when I was 9, and the rest is history. But yeah, it was jazz. We played a lot. They played a lot of jazz. And then I'm an Army brat, so we lived in England. We lived in Berlin, and we lived in Germany. And so there was like the radio stations there played other stuff that it wasn't popular. Like they played classical music, they played German music, they played a lot of other like traditional German music, that is. And so there was a lot of stuff that my parents missed that was out in the early, like in the mid 60s, that we would have heard. So it was all that. It was like, when we got back to Chicago, my dad went out and they got everything. And Tom Jones, Live at the Flamingo, that's a big one. Nancy Sinatra, These Boots Are Made for Walking, that's a big one. And soundtracks, because my grandfather, who is my step grandfather, but he's the only grandfather I ever know, he likes musicals. So then I got to hear Camelot and My Fair Lady and all of that. And since I'm a natural singer, I would sing to these things. And my parents had a microphone for their Pioneer stereo that you could plug it in. And so as a little kid, I was already singing to all of these records. So I was just fueled on anything, and the radio. Put the radio on, and I'm going to sing everything. As soon as I hear it, I'm going to sing it. So I grew up with everything. I never was like a style at the time. It could be it could be, like I said, it could be Camelot that day, Oklahoma over there, Miles Davis here, Elvis Presley over there, the Beatles over there. So yeah, it was always just, and then of course my own records. I had like a Disney record that was haunted. It was supposed to be like haunted sounds. You can still get it, I think, on eBay.
It's like I had that as well.
Right, the Halloween record. It has all the different. Yeah, okay, we had that, and I fell in love with that. And that's, I think, when me and my brother, that's how we kind of became obsessed with horror, because we played that over and over. It was like, it's kind of funny and sort of campy and stuff, but I really liked it. And I realized that soundtracks became a big thing, buying soundtracks for movies. And so that was another thing, because that would eventually fuel nuclear death. But it was like, if there's a movie I liked, my parents liked, American Graffiti came out, and that's how I learned about 50s music. It wasn't so much my parents listened to it, because my dad and my mom were 17 years apart. So my dad's old jazz, classic jazz. My mom is Elvis Presley. So 50s music and all that music and all the greats, I learned that from that album. They got me American Graffiti, and I fell in love with it. I was like, oh, who was this big bopper? And he's like, yeah, that's it.
I had to find it.
And those were so cool. Wait, go up a little bit. I think we had the orange one. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, the orange one.
This one
the orange
here.
one. Yeah, it's 1964. That's it.
Chilling, thrilling sounds of the haunted house.
It was, though. And it was like they had the Chinese water torture. That was the part I really hated with that dripping. It was horrible. And it was like, it's actually, that's where one of the reasons I wrote the baths on Harmony Drinks Me is because of that damn dripping. Some about dripping. I like it now, though. I live in a very wet place, so dripping is dripping. But yeah, no, that was a great one. That was another one I just like listened to over and over because it was fun. And, I like the dark side. I guess my dark side was coming. I didn't know, so.
I can't believe we both had that album. That is brilliant.
Right, right. I know. And then I passed it on to my brother, who's 4 years younger than me, and like we still listen to it together. That's the thing. It's like I think we literally listened to it to death. I mean, I wish I still had it, but it was just so beyond scratched that it finally went away. It went into the bin eventually. It had to go away.
Horrible video in the chat has said Disney, the nuclear death origin story.
It is, dude. It is. That was definitely it. That was like I said, I listened to everything. It was neat because I didn't really have any friends, and that was perfect. My brother was my best friend, so we didn't really have to be influenced by what somebody may say or say. Not yet then, anyway. What I should or shouldn't listen to. So I just listened to everything, and I filled my whole head up with it. Because I like disco, too. I like disco. I listened to disco. I sang disco with my friends. I mean, I did whatever. I didn't care about, like, styles. It was like, if I like the song, I like the song. So.
Do you recall the first album that you either purchased and or was given, and what format was it on?
Absolutely. It was vinyl, and it was two of them. My mom and dad signed me up for, I think it was Christmas, I believe. Yeah, it was Christmas, for the CBS record club. And you go and you it's a mail order, and every month they send you records, and then you can choose what you think you like, and you keep whatever you keep, you pay for, and whatever you don't like, you send back free of shipping. So my first records were interesting because there was this band that played on the Paul Lynde Halloween special. I loved Paul Lynde. He was a master comedian, and he had a Halloween special. He had this band play on there named Kiss. And so I was like blown away. I thought, whoa. And Beth had just came out. So Peter Criss, got on the radio. It was one of their only top 40 hits, actually. Yeah. And of course, it's him singing Beth. And I was blown away, and I fell in love with it immediately. And I didn't know what albums that came on. I just bought the two. I liked the cover, and it was Destroyer and Rock and Roll Over. So my first records were Destroyer and Rock and Roll Over Kiss.
Well, mine was Unmasked Kiss.
Oh, well, see there. No, but see, there you go. Kiss. Yeah. I don't know what it is. It's like that's your gatefold, and it's like your gateway drug into like everything else.
Yeah, it's been a common theme on this show. At least 70% of people on this show, at least people who listen to metal, or even rock on this show, 70% I reckon have their first influence was Kiss. It's amazing.
Yeah, and see, it was just neat because my parents then, I just started trying to teach myself to play guitar. And since I have a good ear, I tried to teach myself to play Beth. So I learned it by ear. And then I actually played it at our Bible camp for the talent show. And so I played Beth, and I loved it. And then my parents bought me at that time, you probably still can, but they had these music books where you could learn guitar chords in the music book, and also had all of the music written out, but I didn't know how to read. I didn't understand music theory, but I understood sound. So they got me music books, and then I could learn the chords, to go along as well. And then I kind of just elaborated because, of course, I didn't know about power chords or anything. I didn't know why it didn't sound like the record, but whatever. And not that there's power chords on that anyway, but I'm just saying. So that's kind of what happened. I had those two books, and then the albums too, and then that was my introduction to teaching myself how to play guitar too. So
speaking of lessons, learning stuff, so self-taught guitar. So was there any time where you were forced into things like piano lessons or violin or
Fonty? No, actually, don't do it. Anyway, one of my guys, Fonty's going after Emily, and it's mean. Fonty. But anyway, yeah, he's being Fonty. I mean it right now. Okay, anyway, he knows better. But anyway, so what happened is that Well, okay, my mom always wanted me to. My mom is the rah-rah school person. I mean, she actually became a art historian, a professor of art history. So she loves teaching. She loves school. So she likes to get me into clubs. She got me to Brownies and Girl Scouts, which was fine for a while, and then it got really stupid. And Bible camp was just, they weren't religious. It was just something to do. Like, you want to go to summer camp. It's Bible study. It's 2 weeks. It was actually fun. I learned archery, whatever, who cares? But the thing about, well, you know what I mean? It was like, whatever.
Hey, archery is a good thing to get from it. Like, if you're going to get something
I just thought it was like you're teaching kids archery while you're, learning that. And like I said, this is Lutheran church, so it's not really, whatever. But anyway, so, yeah, the thing is that she would sign me up for, like, swim team and all this other bullshit. One of the other things she signed me up for was flute lessons. She thought, well, maybe you'd like to play a flute. And this is, of course, I had the recorder, the Yamaha recorder where you can play boo. So she thought I might like to play flute. So she signed me up. We got the flute. I took about 2 weeks of lessons and I hated it. And my dad said, as a trumpet player, he said, well, you don't have the lip, first of all. He's like, I don't think you could ever play reed or blowing instruments. He's like, I don't think that's your instrument. He's like, I don't know what your instrument is, but it's probably not that. And he was right. I just couldn't understand. Blowing in a recorder is like a kazoo. Anyone can do that. But, it looks like I'm doing a bong. But anyway, you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? It's like, that was not going to happen. And then I would have loved if I played piano, if they had taken piano lessons. But instead, my dad's guitar was sitting there, and I had just got into Kiss and whatever, and I really wanted to play guitar. So I just went over there and picked it up and just started playing it. And it was just supposed to happen. Like, it was like as soon as I sat it in my lap, and I thought, it was like, I was like, okay, as long as I know how to tune it. They bought me a little pitch pipe, and, I'm like, okay, all right. And then that's it. And then it was like, and I immediately started writing my own music. I mean, I don't know what these songs sound like anymore because it would have been, who knows, but I was already trying to write my own songs when I was like 9 years old. So, I just thought I could write, like, if I can sing it, I could write it. That was or if I can sing it, I can play it. And that's still my theory now. Like, if somebody wants to jam with me, I don't read music, but you can play it to me and I can learn it that way.
So what was the attraction? What initially attracted you to extreme metal?
Well, there wasn't any. So I was like wanting to make some. See, that's what's cool. It's like there wasn't any. I mean, at that time I had met Phil and I told him, like, there was heavy music, but I had just got into punk too, hardcore punk. And so I wanted something that was like, I wanted something that was sort of like Angel Witch. Because Angel Witch was one of my favorites. They were all witchy and dark, and they were three-piece. And I have this real affinity for three-pieces because you don't fuck around. You can't fuck around with a three-piece because you got to do your job.
You have to be taught as fuck.
And I don't know why I thought that way, but 3, for some reason, works for me because my number is 6. I don't know. But as a really young person, when I met Phil, I was right in high school still, just almost out because he was like 1 year younger than me. And he's the one that kind of introduced me to things like, well, have you ever heard of this band Venom? Or have you ever heard this? And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. And they're 3-piece. Because he's like, you probably like Venom. And I said, oh, okay, cool. And then I was like, getting into Triumph and, of course, Rush and whatever. But, I was into Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Everything was 3s. So anyway, for some reason, it was just like I wanted to take the idea of like Slayer haunting the chapel, and I used to call them slower because I was like, I want to be faster than this band, because I said they're awesome, but can we be faster? Will it work? I don't know. And then the other thing was to take the idea of Angel Witch, like the idea of Angel Witch, and then Merciful Fate was another one because I'm classically trained as a vocalist as far as like I've sang opera when I was a kid. So I was like, I can't read it. And the person never realized I wasn't sight reading, I was listening. But anyway, my teacher. But yeah, it was sort of like I was looking for extreme stuff, and then I found Discharge, and Discharge changed everything for me because I love the song or the album Hear Nothing, See Nothing, Say Nothing is one of my favorite albums ever. And it was like something about that album. I was like, wait a minute, why can't I take this and then mix it with that? Like, why can't we do that? And then we're like, I don't know what that sounds like because we don't know, but can't we do that? And so it was like, okay, and then there's Destruction, and then Destruction showed up, and I was like, oh, these guys are awesome because I knew exactly. because I knew a person that he got me into going to import stores. And he's like, you got to listen to the German band called Destruction. And I loved the way their music was very travel-y. And it reminded me a lot of early Iron Maiden as far as the traveling, like Run for the Hills, or Run to the Hills. And then again, I wanted to make something that told stories, like how Rush tells stories or how Iron Maiden tells stories. It's not just hell spelled, dwell in hell, because I really got tired of listening to all these metal bands and their terrible lyrics. Really, they're not good writers. And I was really lucky because not only am I a good writer, but so is Phil. He should have been a science fiction writer, and my brother's a good writer. So I come from a family of writers. So it was sort of cool because I was like, all right, well, we're going to do something, but we're going to make better lyrics. And that's kind of where the extreme came. I just wanted to I figured if a woman, whatever, girls in a band, it's got to be more than the guys or it's not going to fly. I didn't want to be them. I wanted to pass them up. That was the idea. Like I wanted to pass up the boys and go, oh, you want to be extreme? Oh, okay. Well, dig this. Yeah. Look at how fast we are. And I'm going to growl lower than you ever can. That's kind of where I was going with it. Because I really didn't know how I was going to sing either. I mean, originally I was going to sing like metal singer, or maybe not like, what's that one song? Welcome to the Devil's Playground. Maybe not like that. But I didn't know what my voice was going to be until I was actually in the studio doing Bride of Insects. So, and then I found out what my voice was going to sound like. But, there was no template, so I had to make a template.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it was like the extreme thing was just like me going to import stores where, in Arizona, where people wouldn't know people didn't know who Merciful Fate was, so I brought it to high school. I brought it to school and said, look, and I got in trouble for having the EP because of the way it looks, and they were like, you can't have this at school. And I was like, why not? Blah, blah, blah. It's art. I mean, my folks were never, they didn't impress me at all. I mean, they weren't about censorship, so they didn't get it either. Like, it's a piece of art, whatever, but okay. They weren't like, oh my God, it's satanic or whatever the fuck it was like. But yeah, school was mad. And I got sent home that day for the Merciful Fate for bringing it because I wanted to get people into it. So I was like, like when Motley Crue came out with their Leather Records version of their first album, it's like Live Wire. I wanted to with Live Wire and all that on there, and the Stick to Your Guns, which isn't on the other one. I think it's Electro Records one or whatever. I brought that to school and got everybody into Motley Crue. That's kind of how it was. Me and this kid Mark Harris, we were like the weirdos that would go and get all the weird imports and bring Raven. I loved Raven, the band Raven, 3-piece again, the Gallagher Brothers, and just, So, yeah, it was like bringing stuff. I always wanted to, be the person first on your block to bring something to school where people were like, because everybody hated me at school because I was the fat kid anyway. So this would be the fat kid brings cruel stuff to school. Maybe we should like the fat girl. So, that worked kind of. Got me some friends.
So how was it coming into the metal scene as a female? Because it's a very dominant, male-dominated industry by that time. Even though a lot of the bands, you look at a lot of the hard rock bands at the time look like girls. So it was
It wasn't, man, because I was never in the scene. I've said this before with Nuclear Death in general, but even before that, I made the scene. Yeah. I mean, the scene that was there, I made the scene, and I was known to have the largest hair in the scene. That was one thing that I do know. But again, I was the girl that was sort of everybody was sort of almost like the joke. Nobody really knew I could sing because nobody wanted to play in a band with me and try to find out. And of course, this is me not knowing that I could have just went out and did it on my own. I didn't know any of that stuff, so I wanted a band. So, nobody would play with me because I'm a girl. And then there was even a girl at high school that was playing in a band, and I wanted to play with her, but she didn't want to play with me. And I was like, well, whatever. And I thought, you're playing it wrong. She didn't have as good an ear as me. And I thought, well, you're actually even playing the song wrong, but whatever. Okay. So, it was getting into the scene was more it was more like a groupie thing, not like actual groupie, but which I have nothing again. I love groupies, but what I mean is I was kind of grouping people in the scene. Yeah, that's me recording "I Married the Devil" in my bedroom. But being in the scene was more like me just going out and seeing metal bands and being like, God damn, that guy's playing that wrong. That's not even how that's not how whatever, Hellbent for Leather even goes. And it would kind of upset me. I think I have such a better ear. Why isn't anybody give me a chance to show what I can do? Or that guy can't sing. I can do fucking Rob Halford better than that dude. But, you know, it got like kind of frustrating. And it was like, if it weren't for Phil and me meeting and him liking me, because that's actually how it worked. Sex sells, because Phil fell for me. Thank goodness he did, because that's what made him play in a band with me. It was like, it was after we became boyfriend and girlfriend, then he wanted to be in a band with me. And I thought, well, all right, that's fine. And then I was like, but unfortunately, his ear isn't as good as mine. So I was like, well, I'm going to tune your guitar, and you can play guitar, and I'll play guitar, and then we'll get a bass player and a drummer, which is the original plan. We were going to get a bass player, but of course, obviously, we couldn't find anybody. So I was like, all right, I'm going to just play like the guy from Angel Witch and play on bass, or like Noel Redding from the Jimi Hendrix Experience and play bass on guitar. And that's what I did. But yeah, that's just, the scene did not like me. It's really funny. You would think that it would be a certain way, but unfortunately it was just, we were hated because people didn't like our lyrics because they were too extreme. Yep. They're like, well, you're talking about fucking a dead dog. And I'm like, well, so what? It's not like we're fucking doing it. So who cares? I'm like, it's a story. I was like, what, you know, I was like, I'm a vegetarian. I don't know what you want. Oh, and that was the other thing. I was a vegetarian. They were like, oh, you eat meat and you're into death metal? And I'm like, or you're supposed to eat meat when you're into death metal? I don't know. I was just like, I don't understand. Like, I don't have this kind of hang up. So, you know, it's just, there were all these rules with boys. And even in my own band, there's rules. There's rules that I actually finally got out of after I got rid of I shouldn't say get rid of, but after the original people left the band or whatever, I was able with Steve to branch out and get more control over my own band, since it's mine. And then also simply just break those boy rules. That's what I call them, because even when we were recording demos, like there's these boy rules where it's like, you know, this, like the drummer needs to take apparently 12 hours to set up his fucking kit. And I'm like, really? I thought so. I thought that's what happened. But see, when I met Steve, who's a jazz drummer, he set his kit up and we were ready to go and rock in like, you know, an hour. And I was like, oh, so it doesn't take 6 hours to set up a drum kit? He's like, why the hell would that happen? And I'm like, okay. So he taught me a lot about being more professional as far as when you get in the studio, you're already ready already. And the first two albums, we weren't ready. Thought we were ready already, but I mean, we kind of weren't, because Joel's hands hurt that day, or, you know, Phil's got a cold, or there's always some problem that made it where it was harder, you know. But the scene, like I said, we had some good people. There was Desecration, who helped us learn how to tape trade and how to get our stuff heard. There's Tynator, they were sweet and really great people. There was Savage Rage. There were people in the scene that were good to us. But for the people I wanted to like us, hated us, including Flotsam Jetsam, Sacred Reich, Pedophile, all those dudes were just like, oh, Lori Bravo, you know. And I was like, you know, what's she on a rag? You know, those kind of guys. And I was like, oh, boy, here we go.
Because it's a totally different scene now. I think people forget now, especially people who are listening to metal now. Like, you know, you just mentioned it then. Tape trading was the thing. That's how I got, like, all the latest bands. Like, we used to have this guy here in Australia named Dave Destruction, and he, like, had everything, right, like, all Carcass demos, like, everything that was, like, totally, you know, you couldn't get yet.
That's how I got my tape. Yeah. That's you tape trade. And then it was fun, too. Well, plus the cool thing about doing tape trading, as we learned from that band Desecration, is that you get pen pals, because then you can meet people through, and, you know, it's like, oh, well, all right, then you get all these people that are writing you anyway, or that have stayed writing me, and still, well, now they write me online, but it's the same kind of thing. They're like, oh, you know, I've been writing to me since they were like 14 years old, real letters. And I was like, you know, but yeah, the tape trading, because I didn't know I was a salesperson yet, and that's actually what I'm really good at. And I'd probably be a CEO of a company if I wasn't a musician for sales. I'm really good at sales. And the thing about sales is that I didn't know that yet, but see, that I jumped on the merchandise right away. As soon as I realized I could do stuff like that as opposed to like in regards to getting stuff out, I was out just like, oh, okay, writing everybody. Because Joel sort of did it, but Phil never wanted to do any of that stuff. So I was basically the one that did all the tape trading. Yep.
And so we're gonna take a break for a second, because I'm gonna play a track from Carrion for Worm, which was 1991. So this is from a vinyl rip. Just let me cue it up here. Just make sure. See, it just starts playing. That's YouTube. It just starts playing. So this, which one were we going to play? Cathedral of Sleep, yeah?
We're gonna do Cathedral of Sleep because we got some Chris Ryford on there.
Cool. All right. So let's bang this out. You ready, folks?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
I'm ready for the mute button.
All right.
And mute.
Let's go. We need to go full screen. Yeah. Bang. Fuck yeah.
It's so cathartic even hearing it now because I know what was going on during that record, and it's such a trip to hear that song now, knowing all the things that I know about that record. It's a trip.
It's interesting too for people who didn't grow up with metal. Like they're probably hearing that, listening to today's metal, going, "Wow, what this is noise? What is this going on?" But you see, back in the day, I mean, as you said, and I've said, you're a trailblazer, a pioneer. This was like the step up from we went from hair bands, then we had stuff like Venom and Slayer and stuff, and metal just continued to just evolve and get more extreme and more extreme and more extreme as it went on, and the whole the birth of I guess grindcore, death metal, all this stuff was extreme, and it was meant to fucking stick a knife into you and get you to pay attention.
That's the thing, because it's like, first of all, a woman is doing it, so it's already more extreme because I'm a pissed off bitch and I've always had an angry streak. I have a lot of rage inside me, and during the making of that record in particular, there was a lot of stuff going on in my personal life that was making me even more angry, so that made it really good to get out. And I've told people with Carrion, the thing that I feel most sad about is that not only did the guy that originally recorded it not do a good job mixing it, we had to have it remixed twice, but the other problem is that I had 103 temperature during the making of that record, so I was extremely sick when we made that record, and I really always didn't think the vocals were as good as they could have been. Although they're deep, they're just not as what I would have wanted them to be, because those songs are so great. And I'm like, oh man, if only. But it is what it is. I mean, that was the time that we had blocked him and we couldn't change it. And so that's why we had to do what we had to do, and I had to suck it up and just, stand there. I mean, when Chris Riper, he had to hold me up when I was doing these vocals because I was so weak from having the flu that I could barely stand. But I did them. I did all the vocals. I did all the vocals in one day. So for that album. So I think, and then I just wanted to go to bed. I was like, okay, I'm done now. I just want to sleep because I feel like crap. And, and I'd already done my bass parts. So I thought, okay, you guys do your thing. I'm going to go lay down now. And because vocals are usually last. I mean, at least back in the day, that's kind of how they did it. So I would do scratch vocals, and then I would go lay down and wait. And then eventually I got woke up and told, okay, you're going to do real ones now. All right. Go do them. And Chris stayed with us for a couple of days. So, whatever. And it was like, yeah, okay. So, but yeah, the thing with me is that there just wasn't the music we've done. Even when I hear it now, all the different albums, I still don't hear us in other bands. Like, not really. I feel like it's still just as current. It doesn't sound dated because it's so beyond what it was back then that now people just finally caught up. And I think that's kind of cool because that's kind of the music that I've always, and I still to this day make, is I never want to make the same record twice. That's something that eventually I had to part ways with Phil and Joel for, because they got stuck in a box, and I don't get stuck in boxes. It's like I don't want to be stuck in a box. So it's like Nuclear Death is whatever I want it to be because it's my band. And I made the name, I created the logo. I created the phrase when I was in like 6th grade. So it's part of sleep paralysis, actually worrying about nuclear war and watching the Atomic Cafe, the film, is where that came from. But I never wanted it to be like, well, that's the only way we can ever sound. So that's why when you listen to 4 Are Dead, you can sort of hear the shift when Steve came in and helped me to kind of switch it a little bit and get it a little bit more weird. We wanted to get a little more weird, especially with like Ant Farm and stuff is a good example of that. It's just, we wanted to get weirder and go a little bit more weird and continue growing. And that's something I'm still doing to this day. I never want to feel like, that's it or whatever. It's like, no, there's always, because even when I hear this now, I'm thinking, man, I'd love to, play that again the way it should have been done. I think that's the engineer in me, I guess. I'm not a real engineer, but I mean, that's the person, the recording artist, the producer in me that wants to go back and go, no.
Yeah, there were no do-overs back in the day, as you said. It was, you pay for your time, you get in there, it's like prison. You get in there, you do your time, and then you get out.
Well, yeah, especially because you're trying to kick with 2 other people. And the problem with Joel, especially, he was the one that lived the furthest, and it'd be like, can we get him there that day? Is he going to have 4 girlfriends and be too drunk to come and I mean, he never did it with recording, but, he left us high and dry so many times for rehearsals because he just wouldn't show up. He'd be like, oh, yeah, I had a girl over, and then I'd get in trouble with Phil because I'm supposed to be managing the band, which I never signed up for, by the way. And I'd be like, what do you want me to do? I mean, if he's not going to come, he's not going to come. What do you want me to say, And so it was sort of like that. Like, it was always look to Lori, for the, what am I going to do? And I'd think, well, what am I going to do? Threaten him? It's like, I mean, what if he's not going to show up? And we couldn't find anybody else. That was the thing. Like, he was, until I met Steve, and I had to wait for a couple of years to meet him. We would never have been able to find a drummer that could even match Joel at all. I mean, we knew that. We knew we had the best of the best. So it was like, everybody else, they can play in their bands and their Sacred Reichs and their Flatsman Jetsons, whatever the fuck, but they're not the musicians that we are. And Phil's not even a master musician. He just knew, he and I just figured out a picking style that sounded like nobody else, and we did it. And it's actually a picking style that I nicked from Leonard Skinner, and I just speeded it up. I was like, how he does a little shell picking? Let's do a chicken picking. Or actually, I even nicked it from chicken picking, the Chitlin Circuit, blues, and country picking. I said, let's take Roy Clark and speed it up. And that's how that happened. And then me and Phil just practiced doing that until we could get it fast enough to sound more like a violin, because that's what I said. I wanted our Nuclear Death to sound like an orchestra, like a symphony, not a metal band. It was never about chunking and making your arm do the guy thing where they go chun chun. Like, I can't do that. I'm like 5 feet tall. I'm not cool enough to wear my bass down to my knees like some of these girls that are like taller. I'm 5 feet tall with a big ass harmony bass that's really heavy. yeah, no, there's not going to be. So I had to play it up. You know, I thought Randy Rhoads plays classical like this. That's why I played like that, because I could take the V and Randy would wrap his legs around it. And I thought, hey, that's how I can keep the guitar from not falling. Because, you know, oh my God, that harmony bass, dude, it was like a fucking, like a boat. It was just so heavy. And, you know, and it was so awkward. So as soon as I got my Area Pro, I immediately was like, all right, we're going to go this way. And then that way I can play, you know, because like I said, my hands are small. So they're big and small at the same time, I guess. But yeah, that was kind of the whole thing. It was just like, you know, nobody understands that kind of stuff when it's like, you're like doing your thing. But I just didn't want us to look like anybody else. And I didn't want us to sound, I cultivated our image actually very carefully, which is funny because you think, well, yeah, they wear T-shirts and jeans like half of everybody. But no, there were just certain things that, you know, and of course, lots and lots of artwork. I was like, we've got to be like Iron Maiden. We've got to have themes. We need to name things. Like you've got Nuclear Ned. We have Mr. Napalm. We had a friend play Nuclear Ned live on stage because he was real skinny. You know, I wanted Farrell Becerra, of course, the bride of Insect himself, if you will. Yeah, all of that. I wanted, you know, like Eddie, like I said, I love Eddie, and I wanted to have something like that. And I said, let's do this. And I created Mr. Napalm. And then after Mr. Napalm, then came Nuclear Ned, and everybody fell in love with Nuclear Ned. And we were like, okay, cool. So we were like, let's just do that. So that's what we did. You know?
So I wanted to ask about the artwork because it's very distinct. It's one of the things that drew me to, you know, it's like back in the day you had what's his name, Pusshead. So you had a lot of artists around the time who did certain like Pusshead did a lot of Metallica stuff, and then as you mentioned, you had Eddie from Iron Maiden, and it was one of the things that first drew me because I'd never heard Nuclear Death, but when I picked up Bride of Insect, it was the artwork that I saw on the shelf and was like, oh man, that looks so underground. So what's the story behind the artwork? So how did it, you know?
Well, the artwork was kind of weird. It was my idea to make sure that we were labeled as, first of all, I am an artist, so I wanted to make sure I'm a visual artist as well, as you know. So, because I took over the artwork from For Our Dead on. So I really wanted that to be important to the music, that the artwork really is part of it, and that you're very, you know, like you said with Pusshead, you know his work.
Yeah.
If you look at his Septic Death record, for instance,
exactly, yeah.
You know the work. So I wanted to have people know our work. And I was also into like Crumb, and I was into I can't think of his name right now, the artist that did The Wall, Pink Floyd, which is my favorite album of all time. And just, you know, where it's very distinct and you know it's that. So the idea with Phil, again, Phil also, he should have, honestly, he could have been a really great illustrator for comic books and whatnot. So he started doing, we both would draw. But again, now Phil's still sort of a sexist motherfucker, so he didn't really he didn't really encourage me to draw. So luckily I made the logo, thank goodness, because, you know, I was like, look, this logo, I wanted it to look like Iron Thorns. That was the idea. And so when I created that logo, that's what I was thinking. And I wanted it to be legible. Because as you know, nowadays, these logos, you can't even read what the fuck it says. And I don't like that, because I want you to see. And I wanted to make sure that the T was upside down.
Of course.
And I just wanted it to flow. And if you look at the way I made it for boobs. I mean, I really did. If you look at the N and the H, it's made to go over, because all the boys' T-shirts never looked that good on me. Yeah. And I wanted something that accentuated my breasts. So I actually literally did draw it for boobs, which is, I guess, it's nobody's ever, I've never already told anybody this. But anyway, there you go. So anyway, so he started doing the drawing, and there's Nuclear Ned. And so we just had fun. We'd sit around, smoke weed, and draw. And some of my drawings did make it, obviously, into certain things or whatever, obviously. But I really liked what he did there. And then he started doing the flyers, and we just did that, like right there. If you go up, that one there is mine. The one, right? Yeah, it's the one crawling out of the barrel. You know, in other words, we kind of had a similar style. So I just said, well, you do it, because I was too busy doing all this other shit too. So it was like, why don't we just all do this? You know, we just kind of did it together. I mean, we were boyfriend and girlfriend. We just we did everything together. So it was like, whatever, you know. But on Carrion for Worm, he kind of lost his passion. And I don't like that album cover that much because he really didn't work on it that hard. He kind of got tired of it. And he's like, well, I have to do this damn album cover. I'm thinking, well, then let me do it. And he wouldn't let me do it. He's like, no, I'll do it. And I was like, all right. And so it's not one of my favorites because I think it would have been better. It was our first color cover. And it would have been better if he had been more into it, but he was just sort of like almost over it already. And so that's why when For Our Dead came out, I said, I'm doing this cover this time. I said, I want to do it my way, the way I want to do it. And I want blood all over it. I want us to put our blood all over it because this album is for our dead. It's for our fans. And I want to make sure that we give a little bit of blood and sweat and tears to them. And that's why it's covered in blood. And I wanted it to be a maypole because I was born in May. And I had this whole idea. And then that was it. I never looked back. And every other album cover that's ever been done has been done by me and shot by me. And that's it. But, you know, I'm an actual, again, I feel like I'm more of I wouldn't say a fine artist, but I don't know. Like, I'm not a comic book artist. I've never been, and I never will be. Like, if you look at the inside of Carrion, the poster that I did, it's charcoal. It's like I'm more of a portraitist. And so I wanted to show that. I mean, I was like, that's cute, your little rendition of Us by the Cross, but I want to really do a really great drawing of Steve and Phil and I. And I did that. I mean, I'm really proud of that piece. I love it. It's really cool. It took me a really long time to do. And, you know, it was weird drawing myself for the first time. I'd never drawn myself before either. And that was weird sitting in the mirror. You know, now I'm so used to being a self-portraitist that just comes with the territory. But back then it was a really weird thing to be looking in the mirror going, okay, now how am I going to make myself look? I get the upside down cross right, the hair flowing, and Phil and Steve. And I wanted to make sure it looked like us because it's always in the eyes. When you draw people, it's in the eyes. So it's like, you know. But yeah, the artwork is always, you know, and like even with All Creatures, that was the funniest thing in the whole world. I love that. I love that story because it's like I was so tired of boys and their black and white and red albums. I was like, oh, you're just so damn evil with your black, white, and red and black, white, and silver and everything's evil. And I said, let's do a full color white record. And see, Steve and I are into the Beatles too. He's like, this will be our white album. I said, yeah, we're going to do a white album. He and I were drug addicts at the time. We were speed freaks. And so we didn't have a lot of money. So we got Kool-Aid, 10 for $1, and I got a Sharpie, and that's how I made that cover. I painted it with Kool-Aid, and I drew it with a Sharpie, and that's how that happened. And it's one of my favorite fucking covers ever. I love it. And Jason Walton just put out those beautiful hoodies and T-shirts I just sold, and oh my God, it's just.
Yeah, they looked
and when I looked
awesome.
at it again, I thought, wow. Yeah, because I forgot about it, but like I love the story because, like I said, it was just we really wanted to be. Like I just sold an old cruise shirt, and it was from our first tour. It's a crew T-shirt. It just like one dude said, it looks like a uniform. I said, that's exactly what it is because we had our two friends and they were our roadies, and I wanted it to be like nuclear death up here, you know, like militant, like nuclear death, and then in the back. And the reason we made it white is again, you're at a show with a sea of black T-shirts. I want to know where my people are. So let's make it white and make it blood red. And that way I can go, there he is. There's Joe. There's Andre. Get him over here. We need him. Otherwise, all I see are long hair and black shirts, and I'm not going to find you. So that's actually why the crew shirts are white. That's really what happened. It's like, well, it's so funny, you know. But yeah, white, everybody was like freaking out when me and Steve did white. They were like, you can't, you know, like, why would it be white? You know, and I said, why not?
I'll have to wash it.
I said, look at the album cover. Yeah, exactly. Well, no, and the album cover too. They were like, you know, like, I mean, to me, it's some of the most evil music on that album. It really is because I was just broken up with Phil, and we had taken the music, and you know, he got credit, of course, under the word nuclear death because I was like, I'm not going to say he didn't write everything because I had a lot of hand in the music of that, which he didn't want to give me credit for. So I was like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to say by nuclear death. That way everybody gets credit. Nobody's crying. That's fine. But when we did it, it was just me and Steve. And then I had just reclaimed myself as a guitar player, which was nice because playing bass is not a passion for me. The guitar is my passion. It's my talent. And I finally got to play it again. And actually bass, Steve is a multi-instrumentalist and he can play anything. So I was able to just go, well, you want to play bass? I think I do play bass on some of the songs, but mostly it was him that played bass because he can play anything. And I was like, well, you just do it because I don't fucking want to. I don't play guitar. It's like I've already got to learn all these parts of Phil's parts and do them. So I said, and change him. I changed him a little bit to kind of just accentuate the way I play as opposed to the way he plays because we do play differently. And I was again, going from this big thick bass, to a skinny little neck. And, and we were trying to figure out we originally got a guitar just like Phil's, which was funny because he's known for his guitar. And then I didn't like the way it played. I thought, well, this is so weird. I was like, I don't like this. I said, it's weird because it works for him, but it doesn't work for me because he also has small hands. Phil's only 5'6", so he's got very small hands. So almost like little like women hands, like little paws. We always say he had like little paws, but his little paws could play, right? So Steve is like, he's the one that introduced me to the Strat. And as soon as he introduced me to the Strat, that was it. He said, you love Jimi Hendrix. He's your favorite guitar player. Maybe we got to go look for a Strat. I said, I don't know. I've always wanted a Gibson. Well, let's go look. We went, looked. I sat Jimmy down in my lap, which is what his name is. And he's been my husband for like over 20 years now. And that was it. And Steve said, we'll get it. Let's buy it for you right now. And that's the guitar that I played everything else on in Nuclear Death and still do. I still play. I mean, Jimmy is my main acoustic or electric guitar. He's my Floyd Rose classic Strat. But yeah, it was just somehow or another the way the body is like a woman, and it fits a woman nicely, and I like that. It's like why I like my Ovation, because the Ovation has that roundness that feels really good to me. Not that others don't. It's just something about it sits nice. And since again I'm so short and I have a really big short little torso, it's like. Yeah, big guitars just aren't going to fly. And when I went and played a Gibson, I thought, oh my God, okay, this is heavy and huge. And then I was going to get a BC Rich, and it was heavy and huge. And I thought, this isn't going to work for me because I'm going to end up breaking my back. I have spina bifida. I can't do this. So ended up with a Strat.
Well, I'm going to change things up because we're going to play some music from your next
All
adventure.
Right.
And if I can bring it up here.
Yes. And still my current, because now
Exactly.
I am a solo artist. This is still Rape, though. It's really weird, dude, that I didn't put Rape because I was going under that name, but for some reason I didn't, and it's almost a precursor because 17 years later I'm going to drop the name anyway. So that's kind of interesting.
Well, we'll play a track. We'll play "I'd Marry the Devil," and then we'll come back.
Yes,
and then
please
we'll come back
do.
and talk about that.
I can't wait. I haven't heard it in a while. I'm excited. I love this song.
Let's do it. Let me turn down this backing music.
You got 2 women on this album, and that's it.
Awesome.
There you go.
All right, folks, you ready? Grab your ankles. Once again, let's do this. Hopefully we've got, come on, you can play. Oh, there we go. Just got to hit the link properly and hit play. And we're good to go.
best. Nothing's gonna stand in my way. I'll do anything it takes to just give me
Hell yeah. Awesome.
Oh my God, I haven't heard that in so long. It's just, oh man, it's so cool. I mean, I'm not trying to blow my own horn, but goddamn, me and Jesse kick ass on that song.
So that was
We really
released in
do.
2003. So the last Nuclear Death album was 2000. Is that right? Is Harmony?
Yes, Harmony Drinks with Me was our swan song. Yes, it was our goodbye to everybody. Well, I knew it was time. Like I knew that I had everything. I'd said everything I had to say under that moniker, and I thought that, to me, the masterpiece is the Planet Cochexia. It's my favorite Nuclear Death album, and I'm very proud of it. And it's like my wall. It's my Pet Sounds. It's my Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and it's also the album that I've been trying to outdo. And I think this new album that I just made will do that. But I've been waiting to outdo it for a while. But anyway, yeah, it's like Harmony Drinks Me was sort of like I was showing, even in that album, as you know, I was already showing where I'm going. It was like, okay, here's where I'm going to go. And I can't put Nuclear Death on this anymore. And Steve and I had parted ways, and I moved out. And that was kind of the other thing too. It's just like it's not a breakup album really, but I'm just saying it was sort of like we were breaking up while it was getting made anyway. And so it was sort of like, this is the end. I said, can you just please finish it with me? Which he said, of course he would. You know, he's like, of course I will. I said, just finish this record with me, and then I'm out of here, and then it's time for me to, you know. And then that's when I got into, that's when I met this other person that I ended up hanging out with, this dude this friend of mine, I should say, he's gay. I moved in with him and his family, and to get back on my feet. And while I was living with him, he introduced me to his friend, Jessie Nelson, and she was 16 years old. And he's like, she's a drummer. And I was like, oh, and then there you go. And it was like an instant love at first sight for both of us. And it just, yeah. I mean, she's an amazing person. She's a magical being. But also it was just sort of like, she introduced me to all the Riot Girl stuff I didn't know anything about, because the boys would never would I have been introduced to any of that music. And like Steve did the same thing Phil did. They didn't want me to listen to other music, and then unless it's death metal. Now, Steve didn't care if I listened to death metal. That's not it. But he didn't really want me to listen to new music, which I was like listening, had just started like, who's this person, Marilyn Manson, who's 9 Inch Nails? I started getting into these other bands, and he was like, what? You know, I thought we've been listening to stuff like The Doors, and I mean, great bands. But what I mean is we're listening to like more classic stuff. And then I started experimenting with listening to the radio, and I said, there's this dude named Marilyn Manson, and I don't know who he is and what. And then we went to Hollywood, actually, and that was the year, or we went to LA to hang out, and that was the year the Mechanical Animals came out. And I was like, man, this dude's badass. I want his records. And then I came home and got him, and then found out about 9 Inch Nails and Skinny Puppy and all these other bands I'd never heard of. And then in the meantime, Jessie introduced me to women. She's like, you've got to hear Courtney Love. She's like, you remind me of Courtney Love. I was like, who the hell is Courtney Love? And so she's telling me about that, and PJ Harvey, and, you know, Sleater Kinney, and of course Babes in Toyland, and all these other bands, the Gits, you know, just all these people that I'd never heard of. And I was like, wow, what is this? And she's like, well, people call it Riot Girl or Bikini Kill. And then that's why you can hear in that song when I said, you know, nothing's going to hold me down and all that, because it's when I finally grasped onto my femininity, because that was ripped from me and I allowed it to be ripped from me. We never did the sex cells because we didn't think we needed it for nuclear death. Anyway, it probably would have been an asset saying that, but I figured I'm already a woman, so whatever, what else do you need to do? But, you know, it kind of was like that, where it's like, I had been so defeminized that I almost feminized that I forgot that I was a woman. It was like, I'm a girl, I got boobs and a vagina, I should probably act like it, you know, or like feel how to, you know, I had to kind of suppress all of my feelings for these boys. And with Steve especially, you know, he's a Libra, and so he was very tuned in, but he even called himself a feminist for all, because his favorite person is John Lennon, and he was like, you're my Yoko. But when it came down to it, he's still kind of controlling, and so he sort of still didn't really want me to branch out. And I was like, I really like these these bands that to me are new. I'm like, I don't know what this thing is called. It's called The Downward Spiral, but I like this album. I don't know who this guy is, but he sounds like a genius. And see, that's the thing. I'm always looking for geniuses. I'm always looking for the people that are like exalted, like, you know. And with Marilyn Manson, that friend of mine that I was staying with, he was way into him. He's like 15 when I met him. So he was like, oh, you got to read his book. And I read his book and found out he was intelligent and amazing. And then if you listen to I Marry the Devil, it's the very first thing I'm doing is I might as well be Marilyn sitting there. I'm doing that vocal thing that he would do where you put it through those effects. That's Marilyn Manson all the way right there. Just that. And then you can hear Hole, you can hear Courtney in my vocals, because I was just grasping onto that God damn it, don't put me down anymore. Like, you know, it's okay to be a girl and it's okay to be a woman and show that I'm a woman. Because I just didn't, you know, I was like still dressing and, you know, hiding my boobs and I would bind myself to make my silhouette look more like a guy. It's very strange, but it was like I just wanted to fit in, and I didn't want to use sex in any of the nuclear death stuff. As far as, to me, it was already sexual. I mean, there's a woman singing these crazy things, so whatever. But I always felt sexy singing it. Maybe it wasn't supposed to be, I don't know. But I always did, so that's okay. But with my music, it was like I could really be a woman, and I could talk about, I've always been obsessed with the Robert Johnson story, which is actually Skip James's story about selling your soul to the devil. It's actually Skip James, but he wasn't as popular, so they gave it to Robert Johnson. But anyway, just fun fact there. But I thought, okay, I'm not going to go and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go sell my cell at the crossroads. But that's what the cover is. That's my friend Dalton. He was the guy that I was living with at the time. Like I said, he's way younger than me, and he had all these new ideas, and he was a muse. And I said, you're going to play the devil. And we got my dog, Duder, or our dog, family dog. And we went out to the desert, and we used my headlights for that shot. And it was windy. It was really cool. And the idea was that, you know, you sell your soul to the devil, and the devil comes, and usually the guise of an African-American man. He's wearing white, and then he'll come and tune your guitar. And when he tunes your guitar and gives it back to you, you become a virtuoso. And so I thought, all right, that's cool, but let's make it feminized. Let's feminize that idea. So what would I do? I'd have to marry the devil. He's not going to come and just tune my guitar. I got to marry him. He's going to give me his foreskin ring. That's why I said, because my mom told me some story. I can't remember what saint has Jesus's foreskin, but I was like, what the? So I was like, that sounds creepy. Let's do that. So he gives me his foreskin ring, and then he weds me. And that's why I said, well, I wed the devil. Would you wed the devil? Would she wed the devil? And all that. And I thought, okay, so that was the idea for the song. And I thought, you know, I wanted to be like I was walking down the crossroads. And then, you know, and of course I'm doing it. I'm obviously totally, because I felt like I did sell my soul in a way to do what I do, because I've never wanted children, but I wouldn't have had them anyway. You can, but that's just not my thing. So in other words, but I wouldn't have had it anyway. My children are if I don't say my cats, they're my songs. So it's sort of like and as I've said, I would rather have music than a relationship. Like if I can't have a relationship, but I can have music, then fine, music will always trump it. So that's kind of where that story came from with the whole album, doing it that way. But Dalton posed for that. And, you know, I said, we're going to get you a white suit, and I want you to play the devil. And then I'm going to be there with my guitar. And it's really funny that I'm wearing that jacket, because I just forgot I wore that jacket. I don't know if you've seen any newer pictures of me with my hat now and my new look here for New Orleans, but that jacket, that's the jacket that I wear in a lot of the photos. It's the same one. It just, now that I had the silent reflux and I lost all that weight, that's how it fits me. It's huge. But that's the same jacket that I wear now is the same one that I wore on I'd Marry the Devil.
I think it's interesting.
It's like that old and
it's
shit.
Interesting how you talk about like, feeling like you had to like be a male and stuff. Like my experience in the metal scene too.
Absolutely.
Like I came out as trans like 20 years ago, and I sung in death metal bands for years. I'm 48 now, and everybody knew me as a pretty extreme person. One of my bands, which I still play in, Filthy Maggoty Cunt. I didn't realize at the time, like we were all dressing in drag and doing grindcore, but we were all dressing in drag and singing about killing drag queens. So it was this oxymoron kind of shit going on, and
right, like Nun Slaughter, but like Don Crotzy's the sweetest person in the whole world.
And when I came out to everybody, I thought, this is 20 years ago. When I came out to everybody and said, "Hey, I'm trans," like I thought in my head, all the people I knew who were friends would be cool with it, and all the metalheads would just go, "What the fuck?" But it actually turned out the complete opposite. All my metalhead friends were just like,
"What?
Yeah, we're cool." And I scratched my head for the longest time, like, because I used metal to really protect myself as armor.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like
that's
armor.
What metal is for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
But when I came out,
it absolutely
I was so shocked. And then one night, one of my friends was like, "Don't you realize you played in a band called FMC and you wore drag for like 2 years? Nothing you do would shock us." So I didn't realize I was naturally
that's good,
coming out through the music, So without metal,
that's what it feels like.
I don't think I'd be here without metal. Metal is, I don't know. What are your thoughts? For me, metal was the thing that kept me alive for a lot of my life.
Yeah, me too. I mean, the thing with metal for me was that, first of all, it elevated me over there. As far as this is back again where the girls didn't like me, and neither did boys, but girls really didn't like me because I was weird and I was the fat kid. So as a fat girl at school, that's weird and listens to devil music and all this. And so I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any girlfriends at all, really. I had like one friend maybe, and she didn't go to the school I went to, and she was kind of iffy too. It was sort of like, you're weird, but whatever, okay. But I was like too weird for everybody. So that was sort of a thing too with me, was just with metal, like I felt like I had protection. Exactly. Like to me, it was like a spell. Like if I'm listening to metal, you can't hurt me because I'm listening to something cool. And then also I felt that I was more cutting edge because I loved Miles Davis at such a young age. I knew one of the things I had read about him is how much of an innovator he was, and I wanted to make sure that I always wanted to be an innovator too. I wanted to make music that no one, like he created fusion, and I wanted to create music nobody heard, and I did that. So I was like, okay, I'd done that. Like it's cool. Like it's exactly what I wanted to do with Nuclear Death, because we don't sound like anyone else, and we never will, and nobody sounds like we do. They still don't. I don't think people get how to do the picking styles, and they think they do, but they don't. But that's okay. So whatever, that it's kind of a weird one. It's not hard. I don't know, but it's sometimes I would just figure by now there'd be a lot of bands where I'd go, oh, that sounds like Nuclear Death, but never ever do I actually hear the way that we did it done. And it's like, it's cool, and I feel like that's so cutting edge. And I wanted to be cutting edge. And with metal, being a person, a woman or girl, whatever, walking around listening to way darker music than the boys were listening to, like bringing these records to school, like Merciful Fate and Venom and things of that nature, and people going, and the Coven record, which of course isn't even metal, but the Coven record, the famous one, the Witchcraft Coven record, I got that. And Jinx Dawson is a dear. She's not a dear friend, I wouldn't say like that, but she's a dear to me, and we do know of each other, and she's very respectful of me, and I love her. But she also introduced me to, hey, look at this extreme band, because I didn't realize they were the ones that did the song The Legend of Billy Joe. I was like, oh, okay, Billy Jack. I mean, I love those movies. And I was like, oh, that's Coven. Okay. But this is a Coven album with the Black Mass on it. And I was like, oh, and then the beautifully crafted songs. I mean, I was just like, I don't know. I heard that album, and that also kind of influenced me too, because first of all, she's a great singer, and she was willing to get naked for her cover. I thought, oh, she's laying on an altar at the back cover, or in the inside. And I was like, well, no, it actually is the back cover, I think. But anyway, it's so cool. It's very 60s. I realized that back then you could have like Electric Ladyland, the original cover. There's all nude women on it, and that was a big thing. And of course, we have Two Virgins with John and Yoko. But it just was sort of a thing where I thought, whoa, she also helped me kind of reach into my femininity and realize that, well, you'll see the new album cover when it comes out. It's definitely called Bare Bones for a reason, but in many reasons. But yeah, the new album is me, I think, at my highest craft. And it should be, because I'll be 55 May 16th, and I feel like I'm at the height of my powers with this record.
So you've been working on this. How long have you been working on this new album for?
Well, I've been working on the new album for 2 years. And of course, you know that I went through silent reflux, which caused me to not be able to sing for 8 months to get to heal my throat. So although the doctor did say I could do it, I just didn't think it was a good idea. And, so you can segue into Burying Dreams, because that's when I started singing those. It's because I was able to start singing slowly. So I was doing a different sort of vocal, because I was going crazy not singing at all. Because that's what I do. I sing, and if I don't sing, I talk. So I've got to have some sort of something going on. But yeah, that album, it's some of the songs on that album. Well, one of them is 10 years old. It's one that I refound on Facebook. It was a memory called Fry Park, and that was when I was a really bad drug addict. I was a speed freak. I was a meth head, and but still writing really great music. But I was working with a friend of mine, David, who was my drummer in the original Raped, or I'm sorry, my bass player. He's actually a drummer. He's a friend, dear friend, and he and I were working together, and I wrote this song called Fry Park while I was at his house, and we were getting high. And I thought, at that time, I was listening to a lot of Johnny Thunders and New York Dolls, Guns N' Roses, like stuff that I hadn't listened to, because it was sort of like, boys don't want you to listen to that stuff because that's not metal, because it's Guns N' Roses, they're posers. Well, they're great bands, so I listened to them anyway. And of course, Alice in Chains and Soundgarden. And so that influenced me to kind of write an album that's never been released called Black Rabbit, which I did pull some of the songs off, like Saint Althea is one of them. But anyway, so yeah, I did that, and we were writing that, and that song's 10 years old. So some of these, you could say I've been working on this album for 10 years. But again, I was a drug addict. I got really bad into drugs, into heroin, and then after heroin, I got into speed because I was tired of being tired, and I wanted to wake up, basically. And then when I got clean, it took me a really long time, because then right when I got clean, I entered menopause, and it completely changed my entire body. And it also changed mentally. It changed me. And I was on this really heavy medication for anti-anxiety that I would use while I was doing speed, which is really stupid, but whatever. I was on this stuff called Effexor XR, and it worked for years, and then it stopped working. And I happened upon an article with Gary Newman talking about how he had not been able to write for a long time. And I love Gary Newman. He's one of my favorites. And he said, and the reason I was able to write is that his wife had got him off of meds, and he realized that the medication was kind of causing him not to be able to create. And I thought, I wonder if that's what's going on with me, why I have writer's blocks. I'd never have writer's block, never, ever, if I ever run out of things to say or do or play. And so I actually quit meds cold turkey in 2014. And within a year, I noticed that my brain started processing again, and I started creating again, and I started writing again. And I realized that for me personally, meds are great for people, but for me, they stopped working, and they weren't doing their job to keep me from having panic attacks anyway. So I thought I might as well just put this into music. But like I said, I've been working on it properly. It would have been done a year ago if silent reflux hadn't robbed me because like with coronavirus, I was fine. I'm stuck in the house anyway, recording my record. So I was like, that's what I'm doing anyway. I planned on doing it in the summer because nobody wants to go outside in Arizona in the summer. So I thought I'd lock myself away and record my record. And the idea was to record the whole thing on my own. That was the very first thing I wanted to do. I thought, I don't want anybody else's fingerprint on this record at all. And I wanted it from the time I write the first note or the very first words all the way to the mastering. I wanted it all to be done by me. PJ Harvey did that with Aha Her, except for drums. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to challenge myself to record everything on my own. And because I did record I Married the Devil on my Task and 4 track with Jesse and I. But then I was mastered by my friend Dalton, and it was, it wasn't all done by me. But this is all done by me, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it all on my own. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to make this record happen. But I also wanted to go back to my roots, which is playing acoustic and just singing like I used to do in my bedroom. And that's the other reason I'd never put out an acoustic album, actually. And then my mom had a guitar that you actually hung on the wall for years. It's a nylon, and I've never, ever, ever recorded with a nylon. So I took it off. Her name is Blue. She's Blue. And I got her done, and I recorded some of my first nylon string recordings on that record as well, because I've not been able to do that yet. I've always used my Ovation, and he's an electric acoustic, so his strings are metal.
So we've come full circle now. So this has led you to Pete Johns. This is how we met. So how's that all happened? Like, how did you find Pete Johns?
Well, that was what was cool. Yeah, see, it's cool. Well, since I know that if I want to know how to do anything, I go on YouTube and find out, whether it's fixing a heating element in a dryer or if it's trying to figure out GarageBand, go on YouTube and someone will teach it to you. So that was the idea. And what happened with GarageBand is I hadn't, with I Married the Devil, that was done on my Tascam 4-track now. But when the Sundies EP was done on GarageBand, my brother had introduced me to GarageBand. My friend Dalton, being 15 or 16, introduced me to the computer. He's like, "Oh, you need a computer. And pretty soon this is going to be, you're going to want a computer." I was like, I was afraid of computers. I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I've never, I've only used I've done it typing on it, whatever. I don't know." I said, I don't like the idea of a computer. He's like, "No, trust me, you're going to want a computer. Pretty soon they're going to be big." And I was like, I'm so glad that he taught me how to use a mouse and whatever, but he's a PC guy. And then my brother, being a Mac person, my brother actually, he was a Mac genius at one time, actual certified. He was like, "You really need a Mac." He's like, "I think what you need is GarageBand. I'm going to show you how cool this is. You're going to be able to record all your own music." And anyway, he taught me how to do it a little bit. And then I used it. And then my mom went out to New Orleans, of all things, to see him. And she left me to my own devices. And this is when I was still a drug addict. And I recorded When the Sun Dies, and it's all about drug addiction and losing my father, because my dad had died, and I was still using that excuse as to why I was a drug addict. It was like, "Oh, my dad died," but that had been like years before, And what was weird is I was recording When the Sun Dies on GarageBand, and my dad appeared to me like his ghost or something. I don't know. His spirit reappeared to me sitting in the chair smoking, which he never smoked in that house. And it was like he looked really disappointed. And that's when I realized that literally the next day I quit doing drugs. It was like I thought, "Oh my God, he knows I'm doing drugs or something." But anyway, with Pete Johns, when I started recording again with the GarageBand, I had not played since whatever, I forgot what the year is that I put that out. But imagine, it's that many years. And in that many years, GarageBand totally changed. It actually got easier to use, but not as user-friendly for someone who hasn't even looked at it in that amount of time. And so I didn't understand. So I went on YouTube and I put in, GarageBand help, and I got him. He came up. And as soon as he came up, I watched him. I thought, this guy's awesome. He seems really nice, and he's very informative, and he knows what he's talking about, and he seems to be answering questions. So I wrote him, and he immediately answered my question. I don't even remember what it was I asked him. But I was like I was having trouble with latency maybe. I remember like plugging it in, and you know how it is. You got trouble with latency, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm singing and I'm not hearing." Anyway, I was having trouble. I didn't understand, and I was also having trouble with my interface, which I found out later no longer works with that GarageBand. I need to get a different interface because the drivers and blah, all this stuff. And he's like, "Go on to these forums and you'll figure it out." And he did. I did. I got the drivers for my PreSonus audio box, and I knew what they were. Like, what are drivers? That's the thing. Like, I'm really old school, so I didn't know what any of this shit meant. But he was, he's very attentive and cool. And then that's when you and I connected.
So, all right, we'll wrap this up. So what I want to ask those, Nuclear Death, when are we going to be able to get the music through things like Apple Music and Spotify and all that kind of stuff? Is it coming?
Okay, so here's the weird thing. Just recently, this guy reached out to me. He's an old fan. His name's Odin Thompson, and he runs a record, I guess like a production company or whatever you say, distribution company and whatever. And he just recently reached out and asked me if he could get me to license him the entire, and this means harmony finally too, because nobody ever wants to take harmony. It's like it's part of the it's part of the collection, people. So, hello. And there's great songs on there. So anyway, whatever. But anyway, so he's going to take that. And it's also, iTunes, Spotify. He's sending me the contract, I believe, tomorrow. And, I retain all my rights, of course. And we're even going to probably do some releasing where we make different covers just to make it interesting, but keep the real one inside, and maybe lots of booklets. Anyway, I've got a lot of rare stuff that I found while I was moving that it's all boxed up now, and I know where it is. Things, drawings, stuff that people have never seen. I have original lyrics written by Phil and I, notebooks of stuff like Seventh Nun and things, Hi Fonty, and things of that nature. So, yeah, it's like he just said that he's going to do it. And he has some sort of agreement with Sony, I believe, or something. I mean, it's a big deal. So I'm really excited about it. But yes, it's finally going to be out properly. And I've just been waiting for the right. I was going to do it myself, but I really can't do it the way he's going to do it because he has the money to do it, and I don't. So that's simple.
Considered releasing
so
stuff
it's
through
easier.
DistroKid?
Well, that's the thing. See, there's my new record is where I'm at. That's what I'm saying. Like for me, I want to release my new record as Lori Bravo, bare bones, and move on from there. I'm already writing new music. So it's like and I also did get a new guitar, Dominga. She's tuned down to C. So maybe there'll be some dark stuff happening. Who knows? After the acoustic, I might have to get it a little heavy. And yeah, I actually got a guitar completely for a lot of a much heavier thing happening. But anyway, in the meantime, but yeah, Odin, he just contacted me. And we're trying to work out the logistics as far as like I'm trying to figure out he's giving me these options about how to get paid, and I'm trying to figure out what the best way, if the long term or do a lump sum or what are we going to do, and whatever. And then other than that, though, it's definitely happening through him, though. He's definitely going to do it, and I've already said that yes. So it is a yes, and it's going to be everything. Finally, It'll be all of it. It won't be, as far as I know, it's not limited edition. He wants to do this on a large scale. Almost as if I'm a new band and he's putting it out. That's what he's doing. He re-releases, and he does a lot. This isn't a specialty like how Georgius did or Ted Tringo did. This isn't a specialty thing. This is like not limited edition as far as I know, but I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that.
Well, I look forward to that so very much. So we're going to go out today with the question I ask everybody. If somebody was considering becoming creative, when would you suggest would be the best time for them to start?
I think if you're for me, you're called. So I don't know if there's a best time, because for me, I was called I was called as soon as I probably got out of my mom's vajayjay. I was called to sing and be a musician. And I didn't know I was a musician, but I've always been a singer. But if you do feel the calling, it's a burning desire. But even if you're just doing it, let's say you're not doing it because if you don't do it, you'll die, like me. Let's say you actually have other things you want to do, you want to be creative. There's no time like the present. Just have fun. I noticed I did not have fun making this new record. I can tell you that, and we can talk about that at some other time. But it was not fun at all. It was very, very arduous, and it was very, very heartbreaking. I lost a bunch of animals last year, my babies, and it was horrible. So it wasn't fun to make. I did not have fun making it. It was very, very exhausting. But I'm so glad it's done, and it's worth it now. But I'm saying, I'm hoping you want to try to have fun. But if you can't, then you're like me and you're doing it because it keeps you alive, then do it, But yeah, try. I would say try to have fun and try to do it when you try to do it as soon as you can, because you never know when, the Grim Reaper will come and you won't be able to do it anymore. So, you might as well do it while you can, and just don't take yourself too seriously. I know I do that a lot. I'm sort of a little bit too anal about doing that sometimes, getting a little bit too serious and being too precious with things. It's okay to let go and not take yourself too damn seriously, because you know what? Come on, give me a break. I mean, who am I anyway? I'm Lori Bravo of Nuclear Death. That can't be that serious. I mean, that's a crazy band to be part of. So, hello. So. Stay
on the show. Mistakes make you better, and that is the thing. So.
Yeah, they do. They make you better, but also just like I said, I tend to get in my head and get really precious about things. And sometimes a year ago, if he said you want to do a different record cover, I would have told him, oh my God, you can't do that. But now I'm thinking, yeah, why not? I mean, it's been done a million times. Let's do something. Let's do it. Let's do it. Why not?
We'll have you back on
Gotta
I
learn
do
to let
another
go.
show on here called Behind the Song. So when your album's out, we'll do that and we'll grab one of your songs and we'll show how it was all put together and stuff. If you're up for that.
Oh, please, that
So
would
we're
be
going to
great.
go out today.
I mean, thank you so much, Jade. I love you so much. I love you, love you, love you.
Same.
I mean, you're awesome. You're just so great. I mean, yeah, this has been so fun. I'm sorry. I just wanted to tell you so much fun to do this.
Yeah.
And and everybody that's been writing in, thank you so much for listening, man. It's been totally awesome.
I'm so stoked that you came on because, as I said in the beginning, and it's not bullshit because you're absolutely influential to me. And I know many other people, old school metalheads, back, as you say, back when it all kicked off, back when it was all, when shit was
Absolutely,
real.
man. I am the first lady. I am the queen mother. I just like being the first lady. I think that's totally cool. Nobody can take that away from me. I'm the queen mother of death metal, and that nobody can take away.
So, and folks, I've put links to all of Laurie's stuff in the description, so you can click away, do all that stuff, find out more. You can go to
and
Facebook.
You can find me anywhere, guys. Just talk to me, please. Talk to me because I'm available.
Facebook everywhere.
I am like open like a whore on nickel night, honey. Okay.
Awesome. So we're going to play a track, Barium Dreams. This is what we're playing. So this isn't
Silent Reflex.
This isn't
Gotta
a
love
finished product, is it? This is.
No, this isn't on the album. This is just me needing to play because I had to heal my throat, and I thought this would be a fun thing because I had to swallow that barium shit for something you have to do. It's called a barium swallow, and I said, oh, that's got to be a song.
All right, thank you everybody for being here today. I hope you had fun. We will see you again on the weekend when I'm doing a live stream. I'm doing the opening hour, and I am performing an hour of extreme avant-garde noise. So that's going to scare the fuck out of you all. Totally something different.
I hope so.
So yeah, everybody take care.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you so much, Laurie, for coming on. Love your work. Love you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. And we'll see you all again soon. So this is Barium Dreams.
Yep, exactly.
If I get all my shit together and press the right buttons, here we go. Oh, I've got to have volume up. God, I'm so unorganized today. Let's
it probably would help.
If I swallow barium, will I see God? If I swallow barium, will I see God? This reflux lady, burning starved shady, waking up in the presence of a barium dream. If I swallow barium, will I see God? If I swallow barium, will I see my soul? Her color's not steeped in resonance, just a deep, dark hole. Ejaculated labor, oh, your taste I'd never savor. Crawling down inside the chamber where my spirit lives. If I swallow barium, will I see my soul? Barium dreams, ooh, it's not what it seems. It's a forklift radio station with a salt liquor looking for my buzzing bees. Oh, barium dreams, ooh, it's not what it sells. Got that old 56, I like the If I swallow barium, will I find true love? If I swallow barium, will I find a true love? Who send a radioactive angel, cough me up a flaming devil, and I don't give a fuck if it's from below or above. If I swallow barium, will I find true love? Ooh, barium dreams, ooh, it's not what it seems. It's a forklift radio station with a salt liquor looking for my buzzing bees. Oh, barium dreams, oh, it's not what it sounds. Gulping off 50 cents like a good little check, giving head to atomic hell.
Take me to my grave and cover me up. Say goodbye and save it for another day. I say we'll save it for another day. Yeah, yeah, save it for another day. Hope the rain don't bring my bones up. I hope the rain don't bring my bones up. I hope the rain don't bring my bones up. Yeah, save it for another day. If I swallow barium, will I see God? If I swallow barium, will I see God? Yeah, this reflux lady, burned and starved and shady, waking up in the presence of a barium dream. If I swallow barium,
say God.